Today, this is a confession. In fact, I'm not sure why I'm even doing this video, but I feel like people need more honest videos. And if you're looking for something that is a lot more raw, showing you some of the ugly artwork that I had started with, and then thinking about what exactly I had started to do to change to all of these beautiful artwork that you see here today, then this video is going to be for you. You know, I get it. Everyone comes into a painting wanting to create a work of art. It's almost like we don't have time to waste. And when I just started, I didn't really think about wanting to spend like my free hour just playing with my brush, doing repetitive brush strokes, or even be painting plain and simple flowers when really the variety of flowers are so magical. There are peonies, roses, irises, there's so many beautiful flowers. Why would I want to stick to boring looking flowers? This was the same mindset that set me back for so many years. I was practicing, I was doing the 100-day project, and I was telling myself all sorts of things. I was going through a time where I wanted to challenge myself to practice every day, hoping that finally something will click and I would finally be able to paint those roses or peonies that I was really dreaming of painting. In this video, I am pulling back the curtain on my old artwork. I'll show you exactly what it looks like to skip stages so that you don't waste years like I did, and you don't feel like this is really part of something that you are not doing right or thinking that you're untalented, when really you're just not learning in a specific order. You don't need more tutorials, you just need to know what exactly to practice. And after going through more intentional practice, focusing on my skills and my process, I am now able to look at a painting and see exactly what the issue was, how to troubleshoot, and what I could have done better. Depending on where you started following me, you probably know me for all of these beautiful pieces of art, and you probably didn't see my darker side. Now today, when I am going through with you some of the different pieces of art that I am digging from my history, it is not just to showcase to you how far I've been, and I know some of these videos are about that. It's to show you and encourage you how far we have come. But I want to take this moment to sit down with you and share with you how looking at these paintings right now really makes me realize that for such a long time, I had actually just been skipping stages. I had been so impatient, chasing the outcome and trying to get things right, and really just wanting so much more for my art, of course. I hope that this gives you a bigger perspective of why it's important to keep and date your old artwork, because it is going to make so much more sense the more you practice and the more you show up and put pen to paper. So if you're ready, let's get started. I started in 2016, and these were just sheets that I want to showcase my practice. And it's not to show off or tell you that, oh look, I've been practicing just individual flowers. But here is what I wanted to share with you. Now, getting started means you're just in stage 1 of your journey. And at stage 1, one of the things that I was already trying to strive for was to paint complicated florals. You can see these are roses and peonies, and these are essentially flowers that were way beyond my stage. And then following which, I tried to do flowers that were more basic, but because of my lack of ability with water control, you can see all of those blooms. At the same time, you know, even my brush strokes were really flat. You can see all of these hard lines, and this actually indicated to me that at stage 1 I was trying to jump to stage 2, where you can see that I had not even mastered my brush strokes, and I was already jumping into trying to paint complicated floral shapes and perspectives. Here are a few more where I tried monochromatic paintings, and you can see that my ability to understand paint and water ratio, which is a stage 2 skill, was also lacking, and that was also showing in my blooms that were appearing, the hard lines, and all of these strange dots. The strange dots that you see is also because this was not 100% cotton paper, so I wasn't even painting on paper that was meant to be used for watercolor. Transiting on, I tried to also paint with YouTube tutorials, and here is where, again, most YouTube tutorials present composition, and I'm not ready for composition at stage 1. At stage 4 is where we revisit composition, and already this is where I can see all the struggle, you know, all the florals looking really disconnected. And not only that, I was not able to understand the use of water very clearly. Lots of hard lines. My marks were all just full of dabbing marks. There wasn't any flow in the way I was using my marks. Speaking of dabbing marks, you would also see it here. So I really lacked confidence in my brush marks as well. And here was me at stage 1, and I was actually pursuing stage 3 and 4 skills. Stage 4 skills being composition, and stage 3 skills being adding layers. So you can see I attempted to add layers to my paintings, but not even grasping my paint and water ratio understanding or even water control. I don't even know what kind of consistency of paint to actually add my layers. Now here is another one, and as you can see, I was leaning into really abstract styles of painting at that time. And what I loved about it is, you know, the ability to just free flow. And here is another one. And I've always been choosing really complex floral shapes even before I was ready. At this stage, I was actually around stage 2. So I had an understanding of, you know, the different foundations of how watercolor worked. However, what I was impatient with was I was trying to paint florals and add layers at the same time. Now, jumping into all of these stage 3 skills where I was trying to paint flowers in different perspectives, despite trying to do so, you will notice that I was still struggling with my water control. My entire painting looked so washed out because I was just painting everything in basically one color value. There wasn't a variation in color value. I didn't even play with that, and that is actually a stage 2 skill as well. And again, I was jumping into a stage 3 or 4 kind of painting based on tutorials. Now I want to share with you this one. You know, these two were commission pieces that I had done, and these two pieces, while you can see right now, I have already mastered my brush strokes. The brush strokes are really nice and clean, and that's actually my stage 1. So I've already graduated from stage 1 and I was moving into stage 2, and you can still see my trouble with my paint and water ratio, my water control. And if you look at it in a distance, everything looked flat. It was all in one color. You actually don't see the variation of tones. Similar with this, even though the floral shapes are beautiful, the brush strokes are so nicely captured, you see that all of the petals are very flat. There isn't any variation, hardly any charging of color. I did not maximize the use of our color values as well, which again is a stage 2 skill. But these two paintings, I was attempting to be in stage 3 or 4, where I was actually already able to create in different floral perspectives, and also I was attempting to create paintings in compositions way before I was actually mastering my paint and water ratio. Now let me just share with you another few more paintings. In fact, this was a painting that I had attempted where I really wanted to try and master wet in wet, and you know, because I knew that wet in wet and my stage 2 skills was so poor in terms of understanding paint and water ratio, how much water or how to even do water control. I tried doing this painting and you can see it was a flat fail? Well, I was attempting to already add in shadows and layers, but the thing is, if I was not able to identify my paint and water ratio well, then you would see a lot of blobs and a lot of awkward hard lines like this. Now, I want to fast forward to where I am right now and today. Now, this painting here was done in 2023. You can see the difference in the way I now manage paint and water ratio, how the blends are now all so smooth. And this is actually a stage 3 or 4 painting that I have done. And in this painting, I did not only use a reference, I also rearranged the elements myself into a composition like this. I also used a limited color palette, so you're actually able to see the harmony between all the different colors in comparison to my paintings here, or even my paintings where I had attempted to paint from reference. So let me just find a couple of paintings that I had attempted to paint from reference. So this here I had attempted to paint from reference, and I was already somewhere transiting between stage 2 and 3, and I had skipped steps because I did not have a good understanding of color. I just wanted to make my paintings really colorful. I just splashed color and paint everywhere. This one here, I did not paint from a reference, which is why I could see that my brush strokes were so repetitive, and also they were not really showing much variation in shape. Now here is a comparison to where it is in 2023. Now I want to show to you now the difference in how I actually create using depth, and how you're actually able to see that by working on my own paintings one step at a time, one stage at a time, this is how I actually progress. Now, I am going to do a separate video where I'm going to be sharing with you how the skills look like at each stage, so that you're better able to comprehend what exactly I'm talking about. But what you're actually seeing here in all of these paintings is that so many of the time we try and rush the process, and we try and race ourselves to places where we are hoping that we are better able to achieve specific outcomes, but in the end we skip stages, we neglect things that are important, we chase the materials and supplies. So I'm hoping that this actually gives you some insight on being able to now look back at your paintings and think about some of those gaps that you might have skipped out on, and possibly think about how best you can approach your paintings in a way where you are kinder to yourself and also focus on the skills that matter, instead of thinking that things like talent, supplies, and outcome is what you should be chasing right now. Now that you've made time sitting with me and seeing how some of the paintings were not really faulty, but really it is just characteristic of that specific stage, plus understanding what were some of the skills that I had skipped in order for me to meet a specific outcome. The stage that you are at is so unique to you, and I always feel like we need to truly preserve the history behind our art. It's so important to celebrate the milestones that we are able to achieve, from the day of holding our brush and not even being able to make a flower shape, to maybe perhaps today you're able to identify how to create a floral shape that does not look stiff. These small little milestones are worth celebrating, and I feel so strongly for artists to focus on what stage they are at right now, instead of, well, chasing after a tutorial, trying it out and feeling so bad about it because we feel like this is an issue with talent or supply or the lack of something. But really, sometimes it's about chasing after something that is not really where we are at or what we are ready for. Let me know in the comments if this has been helpful for your practice, and it has also given you permission to just enjoy and be where you are at, instead of feeling the need to move from one stage to the next. And I think this is another misconception. We don't need to always be progressing. Learning is not linear, and so many of the time, learning comes in ebbs and flows, and it's important to focus way more on the things that light you up instead of the things that makes you feel like you are not doing good enough. And until then, I hope that this episode has been helpful. Let me know in the comments, and I can't wait to see you again next week.